Today we're looking at solving equations using multiplication or division. There are two properties that are going to help us today. The first one is the division property of equality, and it simply states that dividing each side of an equation by the same non-zero number produces an equivalent equation. In other words, what you do on one side of the equation, you need to do on the other side of the equation, and your solution stays the same. Getting an equivalent equation means you've changed it up a little. It looks different, but the solution is still the same, and that's what we want. The multiplication property of equality is similar to that. It's multiplying each side by the same non-zero number produces an equivalent equation. And when you get to multiple step problems, like maybe 5 or 6 step equations, you make a lot of changes to the equation before you get to the solution. All those changes, as long as you're doing the same thing on both sides, you still get equivalent equations, and that's what we want. So let's look at what that's going to look like today. Solving equations using division. So you notice here the variable is being multiplied. Again, I kind of like doing my little crooked line there, crooked line segment. So I've got 2x equals 18. That is multiplication. So to solve, you do the opposite. We're going to divide using inverse operations. We're going to divide by 2, and we are finished. Voila, x equals 9. Okay, x equals 9. Next one. Again, this. Now, there's a lot of problems sometimes. People kind of tend to look to the side without the variable, and I'll see people dividing by 60 here. You always look to the side with a variable to determine what you're going to do. So I want to look to the y, okay, the side with a y on it, and it's multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and so I want to divide by the number that's being multiplied by y. So divide by -5, we've got y equals, and that's going to be a positive 12. And again, it's probably best to write it with the variable on the left. Y equals positive 12. Here, nice little line segment. We're going to divide by -6 because that's being multiplied. So x equals, and one negative when I divide gives me a negative, so it's -8. Okay, next section. Now, x is being divided here. The variable is being divided in all of these problems, so we're going to solve using multiplication, which is the inverse operation. So x is being divided by 2. I want to multiply by 2. Now, when you multiply by 2, and I just kind of show it up to the top with a little dot for multiplication. Some people do it underneath. I do it to the side. When I multiply by 2, I'm really multiplying by 2 over 1. And when I do that, remember when you multiply fractions, the 2's can cross-reduce. They pretty much cancel each other out. They become 1. You divide 2 by 2, you get 1. So you get 1x on this side, which is what we want. And on this side, you get 26. And the equation solved. Here, again, put my little line segment there. We're going to multiply by 8. Y is being divided by 8. So we're going to multiply by 8. Again, you're only concerned with what's happening to the variable, not with this other side. So divide, we're going to multiply by 8. Both sides, that's going to give us, I think, 104. 104. Yes, I think that's right. Y, so we're going to just flip that around, make it y equals 104. Next, we've got a little line segment there. We're going to multiply by 7 because W is being divided by 7. So we're going to multiply here and here. We get 63 here. We get W over here. We're going to flip it around. W equals 63. There you go. I think 2 more slides and we're about done. So we're going to look at this. This is multiplication. We're going to solve with division. -15 divided by -15. X equals, now 0 divided by -15 is simply 0. Okay, we can't divide by 0, but we can certainly divide 0 by another number. So x equals 0. Okay, moving on. This is multiplication, so to solve, I want division. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So on this side, I get x. And on this side, I get 20, looks like 6, yeah, 26. Okay, and that is negative. We're going to flip it around, put the variable on the left, -26. Okay, I want to come back to that one in a second. Here, we're going to multiply by 14. And when you do, those cancel out, or they divide to become 1. So it's 1 times x, which is x. Okay, and 5 times 14 would be 70. Okay, here, we're going to multiply by -9. We want to get rid of the entire thing, the negative and the 9. So don't just multiply by 9. We're going to multiply by -9. That cancels out. I get 1z over here. And I believe I get 144 here. Yeah, 144. And it's negative because I have one negative number here. So z equals negative 144. Okay, let's come back to this one. Now this one looks done, but it's not quite because we have a negative in front of the y. So assume that that's negative 1 times y. And what you want is positive 1 times y. You want to get rid of the negative. So mathematically what you would do to get rid of a negative but not change anything else up is either multiply or divide by negative 1. And a lot of people like doing it this way. Since that's multiplication by negative 1, they just want to divide by negative 1 for the opposite. And that will work for us because that gives us y and that gives us negative 17. Notice the sign just changed. This changed to a positive, this changed to a negative. And that's how you can handle those. But you got to watch that. That is not a problem. That's not a solution yet until we get rid of the negative. Okay, let's go here. Negative 13, negative 13. And that gives us a positive x when I divide. That gives me a positive 7. X equals positive 7. Here, we're going to multiply. X is being divided by negative 15. We're going to multiply by negative 15 on both sides. Okay, and again, some people like putting it down here, times negative 15 times negative 15. I like doing it to the side. It's just whatever you like doing. So we're going to cancel this out. Negative 15s cancel out here. We've got x. And double that and put a 0 on it. I think we get 300. We get 300. And it's positive because the two negatives make it positive when you multiply. Okay, and we'll just flip that around. Now I've got a word problem I want to show you and I'm done. So with word problems, it's really good to read the question first, I think. The question, it's just 2 sentences, so it's pretty easy to find the question. If he paid the same amount for each video and spent a total of $42, how much did each video cost? So x, our variable, remember in math, when there's an unknown, it's a variable. X equals video cost. Video cost, okay? Now, we have a total. When we're making an equation, we look for a total. We want to put the total by itself. There are other ways to set it up. I like doing it this way. So we put the total by itself over here, and then something over here equals the total. Well, we've got 3 videos, and the video cost is X. So when you're adding something multiple times, that's multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 3 times the video cost to get my total cost. So 3x. There we go. We set up a very simple equation. Now we're going to solve. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. We get x equals 14. And this is money, so we want to put dollars. It's video cost. We want to make sure we put a unit. Anytime you have word problems, you put units on it. So we get $14. When you're setting the equation, do not put the dollar sign up there. Just wait till you get to your answer and add the dollar sign there. Okay, that will sum up this lesson.